Hello and welcome to Two Drink Maximum, your show over two drinks and nothing else. I'm your co-host Chase.
I'm your other host Shane Byerly.
We are joined today by a very talented actor and producer, Drew Moerlein. You can find him most recently in playing Captain America, in Skydance New Media's upcoming groundbreaking cinematic video game, Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra. We're very excited to have you here today, Drew.
Oh, thank you guys so much, Chase, Shane. Let's crack a nice cold one here.
Indeed, indeed. As we kind of like to start the show, our first question we ask is what are we drinking here today and why?
We are drinking a Spindrift lemon flavored. Excuse me. Ooh, it's got a little kick.
It does. Whoa.
It's very very delicious, and it's one of the only seltzers we drink in this house. We drink a lot of seltzer in our house. Really? My daughters call it spicy water. I love it. It's my alternative for everything, for soda, for alcohol. So I drink it, and it satisfies a lot of cravings and need.
Yeah, let's be honest. I mean, sometimes water can be boring, all right? And it's nice to kind of zhuzh it up a little bit, right?
For sure.
I've never had this before, and this is delicious. You're right. It's tart. It's got it's got a real nice flavor to it.
And they've got
you can taste the lemon peel.
Absolutely. It's they actually shave lemon peels into each individual can by hand.
Some poor soul is doing that somewhere.
Yeah, they're actually $19 a can because of that. It's great.
Yeah, they're hard to find. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
First things first, I believe, if my research is correct, you've got a birthday coming up.
That's right.
I do. May 25th. We're prepping the property and gearing up, maybe throw some burgers on the grill and have some fun.
Nice, dude. Yeah, we are almost birthday twins. Mine is the 26th. So when I saw that, it certainly caught my eye. I was like, hey, we've got almost the same birthday.
That is rad. Did
you find that it was hard to get kids to come to your birthday party because it was Memorial Day weekend, and for me, it was always the end of school. So it was like, do you guys want to come to my birthday party? Nope. See you next summer. Or see you.
Like, I'm done. Personal axe to grind for Shane.
So did you ever have that issue?
For sure. Well, so what we always do is we always send it out way ahead of time, right? Any sort of invite or anything. And the other thing, so growing up, birthdays were huge in my house, specifically because we just take every ball or baseball bat, anything we had, throw it in the yard, and everybody would just come over. And it was just a huge yard party. And the other fun thing we did is I grew up, kind of woodsy and rural. And we had a pond on the property, and we used to go catch a bunch of frogs, and we put a big rope in a circle, and everybody would claim a frog. And we put the frogs in the middle, and they'd have to jump out.
Nice.
Yeah. So, they kept coming back for that. I think. I don't think they actually liked me. They just wanted the frog races.
To be fair, I would totally do the frogs as well. Yeah, I don't care whose party it is, right?
Right. Yeah, man. Well, happy early birthday.
Same to you, my friend.
Absolutely.
Thanks, brother.
So, and speaking of birthdays and starting to get a little bit older, I mean, one of the first questions that we're always interested to ask people who do what you do is, when was kind of the age when you realized that you kind of had gotten bit by the acting bug and that you wanted to get into this business? Was there a moment, or was it just kind of a gradual thing? How did you get your start internally?
Yeah, I mean, I say this often. It's just sort of become a part of my essence. Is I came out acting a fool, right? So I grew up in a house of art, and I was always moving and grooving and doing the school shows and singing and wearing mom's dresses and playing wearing dad's suits, and just always performative. And as I got older, I started to do summer theater camps, and I've always been somewhat dorky and not really fit into the mold of the cool crowd. And I think that space allowed me to just be my completely wild, spontaneous, goofy, free self without judgment. And so, of course, I responded to that as any kid would. And then I started to do more and more shows, and then, started to do shows where we're performing for audiences, actually doing the shows as you get older. And in high school, I got cast in a couple shows as larger parts, sort of unexpectedly to me. And had sort of this light bulb of like, oh, like what I do, people respond to seemingly. And then I had a champion in high school, my theater teacher, Jim Spiegel in high school, and the vocal teacher and the other kind of co-director of the musicals, Laurel Davino. They very much championed me and supported me and encouraged me that I could pursue this if I wanted to. Little did I know that what the actual life entailed might have rethought that decision.
They got to
No,
build
just
in the
kidding.
hoop early.
Yeah, it's not all Oscar parties and assistants, right? There's a little bit more hard work to it than that, right?
Yeah, it's daily slog that is solely on your shoulders. Of course, if you're fortunate enough, you surround yourself with amazing teams that do a ton of the heavy lifting. But at the end of the day, you are the CEO of your business, and you guys know this. Nothing gets done unless you make it happen.
Yep.
At the end of the day, I am completely. It's all on me to decide whether I want to do the next thing, to how hard I want to work to execute this next audition or this next booking. So yeah, I think early on, but then it obviously progressed, and then through high school, I realized what I wanted to do, and then it ended up applying to colleges to go, and I got a BFA in acting, and of course, kept doing musical theater along with all of my acting because I've always done musical theater, so yeah, and now I just do pretty much everything in the industry because you need thousands and thousands of revenue streams to be able to stay afloat.
That is the way of the world these days. So as you got older and wiser in acting, starting from high school and through college and starting to get professional jobs, what was the first professional gig you got where you looked at it and you were like, wow, this is actually something that I can do?
Well, I guess every single one I had to go, well, I have to do this now because I'm on set.
Right.
Well, let me tell you a funny story about my first job. I got an agent through Syracuse and moved right to the city, and got a call like a day after I moved to the city from my agents, and they said, hey, we have a Bank of America MLB commercial audition for you. And I was like, okay. And I went to the thrift store.
Big
Nice. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I didn't know what that meant. I was like, okay, fine. So I went to the thrift store and bought this like cool, like mesh button down Yankees shirt, which I still have today. It's like one of my favorite shirts. And nice. I went into the audition, got a call back, went into the callback, just not knowing it, just being me, and booked it. And it ended up being this like 3-year campaign. I was like on the Bank of America thing, like video thing in Times Square. And it was a wild entry into the industry. And of course I was like, oh, acting, this is easy, guys. What's all the problem here? And
right.
Well, lo and behold. So that, and then VHS was like one of my first features, the horror film, the horror anthology. And I booked that. It was like a non-union audition, and then booked it. And then it went to Sundance and just blew up. And obviously the like shoot process, not knowing it was going to go to Sundance and blow up like that. The shoot process was very like, just grassroots, right? We were up at Larry Fessenden's house. Glenn McQuaid was the director. A whole like crew of like fun, like 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds were up there just like shooting in the woods, like skinny dipping in the pond. And they're like, let's roll that. And, it was a wild experience. I don't think I really answered your question, but I went somewhere.
No, you absolutely did. I mean, like, it's funny. I would have to have imagined maybe somewhere around VHS, right? Because so many people who work in creative fields, when they're getting their start, they have what's commonly referred to as imposter syndrome, where it just feels like, I don't know what I'm doing. I shouldn't be here. But I have to imagine that after VHS, and dude, you touched on, I mean, VHS was like a bomb going off in the cinematic landscape, because it was like, it was all you heard about from Sundance that year. Was like, did you see this movie? Oh my God, it was amazing. It's like found footage movies were, previously established with Blair Witch and, and Paranormal Activity and some of that stuff. but VHS put a spin on it that felt unique and fresh, and it was like it totally reinvigorated the entire genre. And you were a huge part of that. I mean, it's got to feel really cool to be involved with something like that from the ground level. Now it's what, there's 3 of them, I
Yeah.
think, and there's like a whole Shudder TV show. It's like you launched a franchise, you know, and that's got to be cool.
Yeah, I think you touched on imposter syndrome. Definitely, when I was at Sundance, like I didn't understand what this was, what it meant. I didn't understand what Sundance, like the importance or magnitude of Sundance. I didn't understand what a bidding war was. I didn't understand. Like I didn't know. They were like, "Oh my gosh!" And then I was at the after party when they like got the news that they sold, like Magnolia won the bidding war, and everybody was freaking out, and I was like, I don't know what that means, but I'll yell too.
I'm happy for all of us.
Yeah. And of course that has that role in that film has continued to be the gift that keeps on giving, right? In terms of just clout and credits and being able to propel that into additional jobs, especially in the horror lane.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got a really cool new exciting horror movie coming out soon, right? Called The Bloodline Killer.
I actually dropped on April 26th on VOD theatrically, and it's started opening up in foreign markets on March 2nd, and I believe Turkey is tomorrow, and then it's just going to kind of continue to roll out in theaters and then VOD. So it's currently available on VOD for the next 90 days, less 2 weeks.
Nice.
Excellent.
That's awesome.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
The trailer, I full disclosure, I am like a horror weenie, right? So like when it comes to that stuff, I watched the trailer and I was like, that looks terrifying. Like I can't, you know, I don't know if I'm going to be able to sit all the way through it, but it does look really, really cool.
And I'm the counterpoint. I enjoy horror movies. I enjoy the study and creation of them and all that wonderful stuff. So it looks really fun. It's got some original Halloween vibes to it, and I dig it.
Excellent. Well, maybe you guys can sit with one another and
I'll guide him through it.
Yeah, Chase, you can hold Shane's hand and you'll get through it.
No, I've read stories about people working on The Shining and The Exorcist, things like that. And it seems like when people are working on movies that end up being kind of classics or they end up being especially really scary, the people on set can kind of feel it. Like, this is working. It's kind of, you know, the trailer certainly looks incredibly scary. I mean, did you feel like when you were making the movie, like, this is really spooky? I think we're onto something here.
So when I initially read the script, this was, I guess, 2+ years ago now. I got the script across my desk from a producing buddy, and the script very much spoke to me in how commercially viable it was, in addition to being authentically unique, right? It felt like a classic slasher that had all the elements that horror fans are going to love. Plus, it had 3-dimensional characters and relationships, so an actor's dream, right? And also, in my opinion, I'm a huge horror fan, and my wife is as well. And you know, it gives the viewer the ability to invest in those characters and care whether they live or die, right? Which is, you know, of course, we have horror films where we're all just rooting for that person to die as soon as humanly possible, but isn't it so great when we have those characters that we're like just there for them, there for the ride, wanting to see what happens, wanting to see whether they survive and persevere. So, and then of course, when I saw The Mask, when The Mask was completed and they sent that along, I was like, okay, we got something here. And of course, my mind went to, okay, I can, next time I walk into Home Depot to pick up some lumber for my next house project, and it's around October, this is going to be on the wall next to the Scream mask, the Jigsaw mask, the Halloween mask. So yeah, I mean, obviously that's the eventual goal, right? Is to be the next masked killer to take over, or to catch the mantle from horror franchises of the past.
Horror has such a cult following, right? Where it's like so many horror movies that you probably love, that we all love, you watched with friends, like at sleepovers and stuff like that, right? It's like there's not that many horror films that like people saw in theaters. That's like, oh, there are, of course, but it's like, I think horror films are traumatic when you watch them when you're younger, and it's like, so the fact that it's available widely, I think that's going to have a huge like success on this, where it's like, like people are probably a little too young are probably going to watch this, be freaked out by it, and it's gonna, it's gonna be get elevated to this cult status, which is cool. And you're right, dude. The Mask is like, it's striking to say the least.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's funny you bring up the sleepovers. Like that's how I got introduced to horror, right? As I'm sure most of us did, right?
Yeah.
Was Nightmare on Elm Street at a buddy's house, 13 years old, sleeping on the floor, and he popped that in, and like no longer were my dreams safe the way that my parents had always told me, right? It's not real. It's not, and it's all of a sudden they're like, it's real. And we're like, oh no. Yeah. So
what other like types of, I mean, it sounds like at this point you're kind of transitioning into like horror film royalty almost, where it's like you're in this and you were in VHS. Like what are some of the horror icons that you still look up to, right? Other than Nightmare on Elm Street, that it's like, when I'm in the mood for a good scare, I'll always go back to this horror film, or I'll look at this director or whatever.
yeah, I mean, I think I love so I really like horror that you look out your window and you're like, that could happen right here, right? That relatable, that like thing that actually scares me, right? I think Texas Chainsaw Massacre, those films always just give me goosebumps, and I'm sleeping a little differently for a couple of nights. I think, there are a few, so Halloween, obviously, I've followed that whole journey. I think the Saw movies, Shawnee Smith is the lead in our film as well. And she brought Amanda to life. Those, I have to be in the right mood for those, because it's definitely a different style.
Oh yeah,
but they're very intense.
Like horror, gore porn. What do we call it? Horror porn. Anyway.
Gorno, I think is what
Gorno.
Yeah, that's what it will be now.
That is excellent, by the way. And then I think I have a couple that like are not necessarily like as mainstream. Hush X, which was a recent one. The Strangers is always good.
Strangers.
And then going back in time a bit, The Descent is horrifying to me.
Yeah.
It like mixes like a bunch of like just massive fears all in one.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. and then like kind of going more in like the Gorno lane is Funny Games, like just horrific like human beings.
Yeah. Funny Games beats up the viewer.
Yeah.
Funny Games is like, how dare you watch this? I'm going to give you the worst.
Yeah, I have seen that movie. It's a punishing watch, that movie, for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's not like you don't have a mask to be like, oh, they're a monster, right? They do the horrific thing of like, here are two normal people, and then boom, they are people that you would never expect to be monsters, although they are.
And it's simply because they just don't care about anything. Like it's just that little bit of escape from the regular human condition and how horrible that can be. So that is a wonderful. It's a very like study of human existence and all that stuff, which is why horror films are wonderful.
Yep.
Yeah. You're just giving him more ammo to convince me to come over and just terrorize me, make me watch all these movies.
I will. It's worth it. It's like going to a therapist. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Chase is just making his Shane list.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So I mean, as you said earlier, I mean, with connecting with some of these characters in these movies, especially with like Bloodline Killer, I imagine that it takes a lot of it's like emotional stamina to do that. And so after you've done a movie like this, does that kind of aim the trajectory of projects you want to get involved with next, right? What is like, it's such a deep thing you got to get to make a really effective horror movie. Do you then go, okay, for my next project, I'd really like to do something a little bit lighter, maybe something more family friendly or fun or whatever? Or is it just do you kind of just prefer to keep your head down and keep going and, whatever the next thing is?
Yeah, I think the simple answer to that is like, I guess I think about things like that, but not sure we generally have the luxury of that. Sure. I think that's the simple answer, but and then a more in-depth answer is not really. I don't, I feel like I'm at a place in my career where I'm able to execute and feel those things and experience those things in the world of this film, in this little blip in time, this 3-4 weeks of time, and then kind of shed it and let it all go. I think that's a skill set that I feel grateful to have developed over the years, right? I do remember like early on things like lingering. I remember I had an audition for a Broadway show, and it was a very abusive and emotionally abusive man, and a very emotionally volatile man, and had like went through a complete mental breakdown during the show. And I thought long and hard about it, and ended up passing just at the place I was in my life. I think we'd had just had our first daughter,
Mhm.
and there was a lot of like flux in life, and I just felt like I wasn't in a place where I wanted to like repeat that behavior over and over and over on a nightly basis. I think this type of a thing is such a small and singular experience that I'm able to like come out of that more
Right.
effectively. Obviously, the night of, like after shooting like a crazy scene, yeah, there's like some decompression that happens, but yeah, not long lasting, and not enough to like deter me from jumping into another cool horror film in 2 weeks.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Change the subject a little bit. Checking over your IMDb, you've done some video game voice work previous to the Skydance's new game here. We saw that you did some work for GTA 5, being the general populace of the city. What was that like as far as recording something like that, and how do you bring a performance to something that may feel minute to that, but really goes into building an entire world for the player in video games?
Great question. So I'd say 95% of everything that I do in video games is all full body performance capture. So it's full, like you are fully captured from body to physicality to voice. We're just at a day and age where they're shooting these games as they shoot films and television. The rehearsal process is extensive leading up to it, and then we get on set, and basically the only difference between TV and film and the video game space is the actual environment and what you're wearing. So yeah, and to answer your question more directly, excuse me, this spindrift really kicking in.
It's the spice.
I'm gonna start slurring my words here soon.
Yeah, too much lemon.
Yes, it really gets me.
Too fresh.
Yeah, so it's honestly an honor to help build out the worlds of these games. There's a reason why people spend 200 300 hours playing these games, and that's because of the beautifully nuanced and fully fleshed out environment and people within that game. Kudos to all the game developers I've worked for, and animators and writers, and it takes an entire village, an entire city, an entire country to build these things. And I've been super fortunate to work on a number of incredible games, and I feel honored, as I said, to bring a lot of those games to life.
I mean, specifically with Grand Theft Auto, right? Grand Theft Auto is a game that is probably the most famous game in terms of just the size of the world, like that you can play in the game. I mean, is it true that people would just be blown away if they could see all of the work that you do and the rest of the team, obviously, but just, for each little part that has to get assembled? I mean, would it kind of blow people's minds to go like, this is how much work it takes just to do this bit? Imagine doing all of, to make this entire world. Like, I imagine it's so intense.
Yeah, I mean, it is. They do not leave a stone unturned. And they, I truly believe that they care immensely for their fans and their community, right? Because of just, if you play any of those games, right, the specificity and the ability to explore as far as you desire is boundless. It's a wildly fascinating process, and it's no wonder why these games take 5, 6, 7, 8 years to complete.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You can just stand inside of them in some of these games, and there's like conversations and actions and stuff going on. Like, how many times did they put you in a recording booth and like, today you're going to pretend to order popcorn? It's just this weird random thing out of nowhere.
Yeah, right.
And I would just imagine the checklist of like all these things you got to do. It's like, man, like we are really going deep on this stuff.
Yeah, and I honestly, like, I am not envious of the person who holds that checklist. Like
the poor
smokes.
Video game writer.
Yeah, at 245 hours, the popcorn scene. Oh no, we forgot the popcorn scene.
and that's the problem too, is there's going to be like one guy on the internet who's like, how dare they? Come
on, that guy didn't mention popcorn at all.
One guy, come on. That's going to turn into like a 7,000 response Reddit thread.
It'll be its own website by the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I tell you what, in terms of being thorough, the next thing that is on our checklist to do is we're going to take a quick break and we're going to get another can of Spindrift, and we will be right back with Drew Moerlein. Chase, I don't know about you, but it does feel like ever since COVID hit, we spend so much time in our homes, and our homes have kind of become our office, and it's been this kind of weird blend of professional and home. I find that occasionally it is difficult to become creative in the house. Sometimes you got to get out and you got to find a different space to kind of let that creativity fly. And we are excited to share with our listeners that if you are in the LA area, we have the solution for you. We are proudly sponsored by The Muse Rooms, which is a creative co-working space that is here. They have a Hollywood location and they have a Burbank location, 2 convenient locations for you, that is ready to serve all of your creative space needs. If you want to rent space for a day to work on that screenplay, or if you need to rent a conference room for a big meeting that you have with a team that doesn't meet regularly, the Muse Rooms has got you covered. It's a great space. It's a great owner. It's a great vibe too. It's just a really cool, you'll get points with the youngsters for being cool for renting out.
It's the hip spot to be, indeed.
It definitely is. So give the Muse Rooms a check if you're for all of your creative co-working space needs at the Muse, MUSE rooms.com. And now let's move on to part 2 of the show. And we are back with our second Spindrift with Drew Moerlein. Welcome back, everybody. I'm going to crack mine open now. Get that nice
number 2 on the way.
Yeah, number 2, right? Exactly. Well, as we were talking about before the break, I mean, Drew has done a number of video game work when he was in Grand Theft Auto 5. I think it is safe to say you have crested the pinnacle of video games at this point. Like, as we kind of alluded to at the beginning of the show, you are voicing Captain America in the new video game, which is being developed by Skydance New Media. Marvel 1943, Rise of Hydra. Wow. I mean, dude, that is so cool that you get to do that. I mean, tell me what that audition process was like, and when you got the call that you got the gig, and then how long was it before you could tell anybody that you were doing this?
So I got an audition. It was not named Captain America. A spoiler alert. They keep these things pretty tight-lipped. So I really enjoyed the material. I felt like the material fit me like a glove, and the sort of energy and motive and spine of the guy really kind of fit into how I like to live my life. And I auditioned, and then they dropped a teaser about the game, and reached out to all the agents of actors who had auditioned and said, hey, just want to let you know that this is for this game, and this role is Captain America. And I was like, ooh, I have some thoughts now that I know that. And they were like, they said back to my agents, we're good. No. And that's crazy. I was on set the next day. It was wild. No. This has been a very long, drawn out process. Not in a bad way. Just these things always take a lot of time to kind of like from first audition, which was coming up on 2 years ago. Yeah. And then, callback, and then, which went swimmingly. And then, I went out to LA for a chemistry read, and met the whole
sheild,
team.
obviously.
Yeah, I brought my own shield. Actually, guys, I actually did.
You did,
I was
really?
I
Gotta
was
get
just
character.
kidding. I was just kidding, and then I remembered I actually did. I brought my daughter's. It's like an 8-inch shield. I just had it in my like carry-on because I was, like good vibes, I guess.
Yeah, it's a good luck charm, dude. Hey, it worked, so
Yeah,
don't knock it.
yeah. So there was a little bit of radio silence, but with like, hey, still in the mix, and then I was out at our Pennsylvania house doing a bunch of work on the house. I was like up on a ladder and my phone rang and it was my agent, and I picked up my phone and she was like, "Are you sitting down?" And I was like, "No." Let me just
Yeah.
give me a second. I kind of knew what it was, but I got down off the ladder and she told me, and definitely sat down by myself in the driveway and had a good one of those kind of everything coming together cries. And
Yeah, yeah.
Lifetime movie moment.
yeah, for sure, for sure. I made sure I hired a film crew for that moment, got the close up, just
Yeah.
a single
Sun
tear.
setting.
Yeah, it was golden hour for sure. Yeah,
And then a
so
Labrador ran up for no reason.
it was a Labradoodle, just a
sorry.
little bit smarter. Yeah.
Broader appeal.
So
Broader appeal.
so yeah, and then I was sworn to silence with NDA snipers on the rooftop for until March 20th of this year, when at the Game Developers Conference this trailer was dropped unbeknownst to the community, and they did a little intro into how they created it.
God, and I mean, and that trailer blew up in a way that like that you read about, right? That was the definition of viral. I mean, I think it had 5.5 million views on day one.
Yeah.
I mean, crazy. And then when you look at the
5.4
trailer,
million.
yeah, is it 5.4 million? Good Lord. I mean, and you look at the trailer and you're like, yeah, no wonder that had that, man. The game looks awesome. Like, it just looks incredible.
Yeah.
And the coolest thing is like they used your face, right? So it's, as you said earlier, it's like a full motion capture. So it's like you are Captain America, man.
Yeah,
Like,
what was that like the day you saw the model and you saw yourself in the suit? And you're like, oh,
I mean,
me.
definitely. I think I don't think I'm ever gonna quite believe it, or like I'm constantly pinching myself, and I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay with just living in a place of like wow for the rest of my life, because that's a joyous thing to feel. I truly like humbled and honored, and I think mostly honored because his moral compass is so strong, and to like be given the opportunity to step into his boots and like bring this globally loved and recognized character to life is really like the honor of my career right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's Captain America as a character that the world over you can show a picture of, and they know who it is, right? And so it's like that's got to add a little bit of a responsibility to the performance, where it's just like I am the voice of America, right? Where it's like you really got to step up to the moment. And I'm telling you, watching that trailer, boy, you did. Like, it's awesome. Like, you are Captain America, and it looks great, man. Like, I cannot wait to play the game, which we're all gonna have to wait a while because it's 2025, but. So is it safe to say at this moment that it's still ongoing? You're still working on it, right? Like, there's still stuff that's happening with it because it's not finished. As we said earlier, it takes years to make these games, right? To make them all playable and to get every bug tested. So it's still, you guys are still in the middle of making it, right?
That is correct. Everyone is hard at work and very, very excited to bring this to the world for sure.
They're
Yeah.
scheduling the Captain America orders popcorn scene, correct?
Yeah.
You're waiting for that email.
It's gonna be like, I've actually requested to my writer that it's like Brad Pitt in Ocean's 11. I have to eat in every scene.
It's got to be kettle corn.
Yeah.
Super smart. That's yeah. That way you just don't even have to break for lunch, right? You just
Yeah, there you go. See, I'm saving everybody money.
Yeah. How doing a role, I mean, that huge, where it's like I can't imagine that there can't be that many scenes in the video game that you're not in. Was this kind of the largest scale thing where like, my God, where you really got to see like the full breadth of starring in a video game, where it's like, this is so much, like it's so much more than you thought it would be.
For sure. Like, I did a a lot of work on Horizon Forbidden West, but of course, you know, on a couple of levels, right? This is, as you said, this is for sure like my largest personal video game credit and experience thus far, and it's been a monumental undertaking. And I mean, I can't say enough good things about this team. This is I am blessed to show up to set every day. I mean, the creatives, the cast. I mean, it's funny. I talked about VHS being grassroots purely because like it was that's what it was, right? We showed up at a house and just did this thing, right? This is on a massive scale, and yet we show up and it feels like that. I feel like a kid in a sandbox, and there's so many gifts given to me as an actor and to all of us in the cast as actors of freedom to bring who we are and our heart and our thoughts on who this person is to the table. And it's, you know, you can't ask for more than that from a creative standpoint.
Yeah, I mean it's great to hear you say that, right? Because I think one of the questions that I think a lot of people would have, or that I'm certainly curious about, is that, you know, you are now part of a very small fraternity of folks, Chris Evans, right, and Wyatt Russell, and, you know, Anthony Mackie, that have gotten to play the character. What is that process like for you of kind of silencing those internal voices of comparison and just finding the character for yourself? Because you clearly did it, but what was that process like for you of just, I got to find it my own way, you know?
I'll go back to sort of what I said before, which is that they very much nailed home that you are who we wanted for this role, and we want you to bring what you bring to this role. Again, the greatest gift that any of us could hear, because of course I'm able to do, as an actor, you know, a seasoned actor, I'm able to do whatever you'd like me to do, to know that they're trusting me to bring this role to life in this specific capacity is really an honor.
Was there anything that you were able to add to the character, even though they said they knew we picked you for you, so don't do anything different? But like, what was something that you felt that you could add?
I think there's a lot of turmoil or doubt or questioning that happens within my interpretation. I don't know. I guess it's I'm finding my way through this as I speak, because I think that it's always going to be something. My life, my human lens, my set of experiences is inherently unique, right, and authentic. And there's not a soul on this earth that can do something or think something the way that I think it, because of my set of experiences, right? Just like I can't think like anyone else. So I think that if I trust that I'm bringing my own juice to it, then the difference or the uniqueness will shine through.
That's what a Captain America answer.
Right?
Because
I know.
I mean, because Steve Rogers is a character that externally
every one of us is amazing,
very
kids.
confident, right? But internally he's always like, am I doing the right thing? Am I making the right choice? That was the perfect, as far as I'm concerned, that was the perfect answer there.
In my mind, I was like, I think I said like maybe 23 words, all in different orders, and I have no idea what I just said. But you know what? I'll take it. It was.
You got there.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you can't really talk specifics about the game, but one thing that I would ask is why watching this trailer does this game just feel so different? Like, what can you say about why this game feels so different? Because I can't quite put my finger on it, but it does. It feels different. What should people be expecting when they're able to play the game next year?
I am definitely going to start that with, I'll probably answer very vaguely about this, just to be super respectful of the mystery and the secrecy here.
Of course.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's I think the word cinematic really kind of goes a long way in this answer. I think that it's a very cinematic and beautifully shot game, and of course, we all know from the trailer that it was shot. It's a period piece, and I think that the animators have done a beautiful job of capturing life in 1943, and I think the journey is going to be marvelous for anyone who goes out and gets this and goes through the experience.
I'll give you an easier version of that question real quick. What emotions do you want the player to feel on day one of that game?
I think probably the goal is like, I think the ultimate goal would be, I've never played anything like this in my life.
Nice. Well, it's good. You got to speak vaguely, because you can't whip people into a rabid frenzy when the game doesn't come out till next year. We gotta manage our excitement, right?
For sure.
Now, hopefully for you, you are now able to transition this into bringing some of your Broadway musical talent to playing Captain America like on Broadway. That would be pretty cool, right? I mean, there's an
gotta do the real Broadway adaptation of the fake Broadway adaptation inside the movie.
Yeah, that was I think it was Hawkeye was the show where there was that thing. It's like you could do it now. You've got the skills to play both Captain America and lead a Broadway musical. So
I am in. So who do we? Let me look through my Rolodex here real quick.
I believe his name starts with F. It's Feige, I believe, is the name that we have to call to make that happen. No, that would be super cool. Is there any possibility that we might see something like that in the future? That would be awesome.
I have zero idea about that, and that's not even me speaking vaguely, but I mean, sure.
Yeah. We're going to put that out there in the universe now.
Great.
We'll put you down for a yes.
We'll
get to work on that.
It certainly wouldn't be the first time you've done something really cool in Broadway, right? Because you were in the American Psycho musical as well. Is that correct?
I was, yeah. I played, most may know the movie, so I played the Jared Leto role, the Paul Owen role. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, did your character meet the same ugly demise as Jared Leto did in the?
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. It the
How did they
intermission
achieve that on stage?
Yeah, so intermission, right before intermission, so Ben Walker played Patrick Bateman, and we had this we were dancing to Huey Lewis. We were both like, messed up through the roof, dancing to Huey Lewis. I'm at his apartment, and I like lay down on this like little love seat, and he, as I'm like whacked out, he puts on a overcoat, like a raincoat, and goes off and gets his axe while the music's still playing, and I'm just singing and laughing, and he comes out and hacks me up, and right before he hacks me up, a clear clear shield comes down in front of the audience, and he hacks me up, and blood cannons shoot onto the thing at the audience, but there's a thing there, and then he hacks me up, and then the fog machine comes on, and then he just comes walking up to the screen with my head, and that was blackout.
You're telling me a theater wasn't cool with splashing fake blood all over the audience?
Well, go type in American Psycho previews blood on audience, and you'll see
so they did it once.
No, the scrim didn't come down.
Part of the fun.
There was a I don't know anything about bags, but a very expensive bag in the front row, and it got covered in blood, and it was a
somebody with no sense of theater, man.
Right?
I would imagine that the production value of American Psycho was a lot higher than some of the stuff you did in high school, but was there anything that you got to explore, like as a character in high school, that you would love the opportunity to do on a professional level, right? Was there a musical you're like, oh man, I was Kaniki in Grease or whatever, and you're like, this would be so cool to do? Like, what would be the dream gig there for Broadway?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I played Valjean in Les Mis my senior year.
Yeah,
and
nice.
My uncle actually just texted me a picture. It was a picture of the DVD that said Drew.
Nice.
It was Drew Moerlein in Les Mis, and that was an incredibly impactful show and moment for me. I would love to do that role again. I mean,
Famously, that role is not very difficult and requires zero range to your voice. Yeah,
Yeah, I would definitely like to. No, no. Yes. Okay. All right. All right. I'm good. I'm good.
No,
I'm
that
good.
role, for anybody who knows musicals, I mean, that is one of the most challenging roles. It's like
Yeah.
you have to have such range and such stamina to pull it off. That's incredible that you were able to do it in high school. Yeah, I would imagine it would be a whole nother level to do it professionally, but that would be so cool. I'm rooting for you to see if we can't pull that off.
Hey, I think thanks, man. I appreciate that. And A Flea in Her Ear was a farce. It was a play
Mhm.
that I did in high school, and that was just a ball. It was like spinning stages and like jump from this bed into another room and like kiss the wrong person. And it's like
Mhm.
a classic farce that I just loved. So
So with your foundations in theater and working in front of an audience and having that interaction, something you can be heard saying, at least on socials, is your desire to create authentically. What about being authentic and the things you're creating, the performance you're giving, draws you to doing that? Because it sounds like if you really wanted to, you could just turn it off and on and not really care and bust things out and be amazing anyway. But that fact that you have that
yeah,
extra commitment is really cool.
yeah, I mean, let's get down to brass tacks. Like I do everything in the industry, and of course, there are times like when there are certain like commercialized, commercial stuff that like there's something that has to be delivered right now, right? But at its base form, yeah, I think I think the first answer to that is it's easier, right? Like it's really easier and really fulfilling to get to just breathe and speak and do it from your soul and your heart. It brings me great joy to do so. And then I think that I think why I really enjoy creating authentically is because we each have a unique and authentic story to tell, and I think that's why we do what we do, right? I think that my story, I always hope that the story that I get to tell in whatever project I'm working on helps to create engagement and conversation, and depending on the project, can help or inspire someone in their life, or if they're passionate about doing what I do, perhaps that inspires them to do that. And yeah, to go back to kind of answer one, like it's satisfying. It's really satisfying to be able to bring like all of me to what I do. You know, it's funny. I just said the commercial thing, but actually, like I just auditioned for a commercial yesterday, and it was like a dad driving in his car and stops and get gas with his wife and then the kid in the back, and the kid's got headphones on, and like all I had to do was press record and like have the conversation, obviously like by myself in a dark basement, to my kid in the back and my wife next to me. And like there's so much joy in it, whether I'm the guy or not for this commercial. It's authentic, it's real. It's like I get to like pretend and experience like being in the car with my family. um so yeah, I guess that's just my goal, is to always be like an above board, honest, morally conscientious person who's trying to create art that changes or inspires.
No, that's
I
incredible.
mean, yeah, dude. And hearing you say it like, I mean, when you phrase it like that, I mean, you might not be comfortable saying it, but I think it's fairly obvious to us that that authenticity and that desire for authenticity is a huge part of the recipe for your success, right?
uh,
That's
Thank you.
what's one of the things that's pushing you forward in addition to talent, is just that desire to create authentic. Wow, I cannot talk
It's
today.
a tough one.
Authentically. So I guess the natural question is, where is that authenticity leading you next? But what else is on the horizon for you that you can share, that you're excited about, that we can kind of follow along and watch you do what you do?
Yeah, for sure. I've got a film. I'm in a film called The Ballad of a Hustler that's running the festival circuit. So I went up to Santa Barbara International Film Festival, and this past weekend I was at Beverly Hills Film Festival. It just won Best Feature at Arizona Film Festival.
Nice, congrats.
So yeah, thank you so much. A very impactful story of a Brazilian immigrant, and his journey and struggles being here in the States. And just a I play a person who is not so helpful to his journey in this story. And I always say this. People often ask, like, are you how do you feel about doing that? And I think it's as important to, if the story is on on a mission for change or conversation, and I can help that vehicle get to there, no matter who I'm playing, uh, helping that story see the light of day, even though I happen to be the not so pleasant human, is very important to me. And then I've got a few other films in the pipeline, in post, a couple that I've produced, or that I produced and acted in, and then a couple other that I just acted in. Funny enough, I have two more horror films that are in post and coming out in the next, I don't know, 6-8 months.
Awesome.
So yeah, lots of fun stuff, and I'm heading down to shoot a Toyota Tundra commercial next week. Keeping busy.
Yeah,
That's
you've
right.
got some exciting pokers in the fire, that's for sure. I mean, we'll have to stay in touch till we just get our ducks in a row on those dates, and we'll help our listeners know when you've got some exciting stuff coming up for sure.
I really appreciate that, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah. One of the other questions we want to ask too is, at a certain point, right, when you reach a level of success, certainly that you have as well, you kind of start to look back, right, at the early stage of your career. What advice would you give for anybody who is listening, who, is inspired by how you got to where you are and kind of following that path that you did? What advice would you give to somebody who wants to get into acting or Broadway or anything of that? What would the steps be that you would recommend for them?
Yeah, great question, and love it a lot. So thank you. I would say probably one of the most important is find and surround yourself with people who inspire you to dig deeper, who champion you to be yourself authentically, and encourage you to push the boundaries of what you're capable of. I think that I seek people who inspire me, as well. And, I think I learned early on that playing on sports teams with people who are better than me made me much better at what I did.
Right.
And not that like other actors are better, but just I can always learn and glean things and be inspired by others. And, people in the arts, support is incredibly important. Right. We are on an island. This is, I have a little island, right, that I live on. And when I invite people to that island and I build a community, it's essential to mental health, physical health, and just, at the end of the day, this is a business built on relationships. And I would say, this is a business. So now we're switching to the business side. You're the CEO, as I said, you're the CEO of your business and your brand. You need to learn how to make money, and then more importantly, learn how to manage that money, and then invest it back. Right. It's essential, right? So many people, they're like, I know how to make money. And I'm like, yeah, but do you know how to manage that money? Because this business is, peaks and valleys. No matter who you are in this business, you will have times when you are living unpaid, right? And you have to have things in place to support you, right? And it's like, I've gotten to a place where like, this was my life, right? Mm-hmm. Both emotionally, you can't see this, listeners. I'm going like up and down with my hand.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. And it was huge waves, a massive storm, right? Emotionally and financially and physically. And then when I learned how to calm that storm, both again, financially, mentally, physically, I was able to turn it into a slow roll, right? Which is just a much more pleasant state of being. So I think that's important. And then the last thing I'd say is, to the best of your abilities, do it all. I truly think that that having all of these lanes and revenue streams is really what allows you as an artist, a freelancer, as you know, anyone who works job to job, to be able to keep consistent paychecks coming in. You have to have all, you know, you have to touch into every single lane that you possibly can and keep pursuing them and perfect your craft in every lane. And continue to train. And it's your skills are like a muscle; they become atrophied if you don't train them. So, yeah, I hope that helps.
That is, I think,
those
some of the
amazing
most
tips.
stunningly practical advice I think we've ever had on the show. So,
Right?
yeah, dude, thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Some star-spangled advice coming from you.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we have come to the bottom of our second drink, so that means it's time to wrap up the show. We want to give a very special thank you to Drew Moerlein. Catch him in Skydance New Media's Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra. Drew, where can people keep up with you online if they want to follow your socials?
At Drew Moerlein, DrewMoerlein. That's my Instagram. You'll find everything, news, fun, some DIY projects, a lot of animals, you know.
Anything and everything.
Yeah, and drewmoerlein.com, spelled the same way.
If you don't want to follow his adventures after this episode,
Right?
shame on you. I mean, what's going on here?
Also, be sure and stream his new horror film, Bloodline Killer, available on VOD anywhere and everywhere, it sounds like. So thank you again very much, Drew, for coming on the show. It was really great to talk with you.
Hey, Shane, Chase, I greatly appreciate you guys. And thank you so much for having me on. And you guys keep rocking.
We will keep rocking. If you want to keep up with us, you can follow us on Instagram at 2drinkmaximum, TWODRINKMAXIMUM. The longest
Oh, look at that.
name
He
ever.
did it. He did it right.
I did it. It's every other show we get it correctly. We also want to give a big thank you to our sponsor, The Muse Rooms. That's themuserooms.com, M-U-S-E for Muse. It's a wonderful creative co-working space here in Hollywood, California. We're very lucky to record there. But yeah, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, guys. We will see you next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.